Do you want to maximize your success with NCUA? Join Mark Treichel as he shares with you the insider's view on passing your exam with flying colors. The With Flying Colors podcast is sponsored by Credit Union Exam Solutions by Mark Treichel. If you would like to work directly with the Credit Union Exam Solutions team and receive support to optimize your results with NCUA so you save time and money, visit us at marktreichel.com to find out more.
Hey, Mark Treichel here with Flying Colors. Today I am tackling another topic from NAFCU's letter to NCUA that they wrote on August 16th to Frank Cressman. And this is NAFCU's annual NCUA. Here's what we think you should change to the Federal Credit Union Act, which of course would require Congress to change, and or regulations. And there's some good ideas here. And there's so many ideas here, I've broke it up into individual podcasts so that if you see a topic that interests you, you can listen to that one as opposed to having to listen to a whole hour talking about this letter. Because again, NAFCU put a lot of time and effort into this, and I want to give it its appropriate attention and consideration. So today, I am going to speak to their proposals relative to Federal Credit Union Bylaws 701.2. By the way, shortly before I retired, bylaws were changed, and I'll just say this, that credit unions tend to want to change, in some instances, the word happy to glad, and you really can't do that in your bylaws. So that's why they have standard bylaws and non-standard bylaw amendments that have been vetted thoroughly by NCUA to ensure that they're legal and within the confines of the Federal Credit Union Act. That's why when you try and tweak your bylaws, you find out that you really can't do that. You have to go to the cookie cutters. NAFCU and CUNA lobby for changes that make sense in their eyes, in the eyes of their constituents, and then NCUA over time moves the bylaws. It's not a very nimble process, and NAFCU points out that they think bylaws should be changed more frequently. And in their letter, they say NAFCU continues to advocate for greater flexibility for credit unions to develop bylaws that cater to their unique fields of membership and dynamic member needs. The NCUA should revisit the bylaws on a more consistent basis to identify and reduce confusing bylaw provisions and to incorporate technological advances. NAFCU appreciates the NCUA's commitment to updating, clarifying, and simplifying the bylaws. So with the pandemic and with technological advances, there have been opportunities for NCUA to allow more real world and 2022 specifically consistent with how the world operates today. And that's some of the things that NAFCU asks for in their letter. So they have a few paragraphs, 4 paragraphs on CUGMA and member expulsion, and NAFCU indicates they were pleased to see the Credit Union Governance Modernization Act be signed into law on March 15th, providing the promise of much needed relief to credit unions that have long struggled with restrictions on the expulsion of members who are violent, disrupt, or who engage in criminal behavior. So there's changes here that have been positive, and NAFCU goes on to say, any CUGMA rulemaking should be cognizant of the varying and unique characteristics of individual credit unions and provide the regulatory flexibility for credit unions to adopt member expulsion systems and policies that best reflect their composition. So the balancing act here is that credit unions are a democratic organization. We live in a democracy and people have rights. And so NCUA has to err on the side of the rights of the member while also focusing on the safety of those within the credit union. And that's a difficult task, particularly in the America that we live in today, where everything's so polarized and violence seems to be on the upswing. So I'm sure credit unions are probably dealing with this more and more. So this is a good change. And I expect NCUA will be coming out with some things on this. Use letter. I'll attach it to the show notes. It has a lot of good information relative to that. They go on also to talk about meeting and voting flexibility. NAFCU appreciates that NCUA's bylaws updates in 2019, in particular, its addition of meeting flexibility through the use of technology. As the pandemic wanes in severity but continues to persist, NCUA should remain open to additional meeting and voting flexibility as technology evolves, so long as comprehensive cybersecurity measures are in place. The NCUA should make permanent the bylaw flexibility that was issued during the pandemic, and specifically, it should remove the requirement that NCUA guidance prior to invocation of the emergency exception in the in-person quorum requirement. I'm curious to see what NCUA thinks on this. My guess is it has to be an emergency to qualify with the Federal Credit Union Act, or this would require an act of Congress. That would be my gut reaction to this, but we'll see what the Office of General Counsel recommends to the NCUA board relative to this. Of course, NCUA doesn't have to act on what NAFCU has proposed here, but oftentimes they come up with great ideas and the board likes to take great ideas and put them in place. So we'll see what happens relative to that. Let's see, there's one more topic that they talk about here relating to the frequency board minutes, not board minutes, board meetings. And they state reducing the outdated requirement for credit union boards of directors to meet each month to no fewer than 6 times per year is a welcome modernization that will give credit unions more flexibility and free up resources that could otherwise be used for serving members. This is particularly true for small credit unions in rural and underserved areas. With all the connectivity and technology available today, credit union boards are able to communicate in an ongoing manner that has negated the necessity of monthly meeting requirements. I don't agree with that. I would say because of the improved technology, it's easier to meet monthly, not harder, and probably more important. And I doubt NCUA will make changes like this anytime soon, particularly in the eyes of how NCUA's guidance and rules and discussions frequently speak to the importance of governance in credit unions. And they do that because they want to make sure the board is involved. So having less frequent meetings reduces the involvement of the board. And while there may be some at NAFCU and in credit unions that think less board involvement in a credit union would be appropriate, I don't see NCUA buying into that concept anytime soon. So on this item, I would say that NAFCU may be carrying somebody's water who wanted this in the letter, but I see zero chance of that happening. That's just my take. That's it on this topic. I appreciate you listening. I hope that you'll listen again soon. And this is Mark Treichel signing off with Flying Colors.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of With Flying Colors. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app to hear future episodes where subject matter experts of all varieties will provide tips on how to achieve success with NCUA. If you would like to learn more about how we assist credit unions, check out our services at marktreichel.com.